Welcome back. In today's video we're going to go over assigning ability points for your character and character creation. This is perhaps one of the most interesting things to learn and understand in order to have a successful playthrough. First, I want to give a quick shout out to two recent channel patrons, Bugsy and Caleb. Thank you guys so much. Everybody else who became a channel member or a patron recently, I've got you all written down. I just have to get my bearings. There's a lot going on right now. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Assigning ability points in Baldur's Gate 3 is a very important step in character creation, and it will determine your successes and failures over your entire playthrough, so let's make sure everyone has a basic understanding of what's going on here. After you have created your character and chosen your class, the last tab is Abilities. As you can see, there are 6 abilities, each of which represents a creature's mental and physical characteristics. And the reason I say creature and not character is because many things that you come across in your playthrough will also have their own ability scores that vary from creature to creature, and it will affect how they fight and interact with the world just like it does with your character. The higher your score in a particular ability, the higher your ability modifier will be, and your modifier is the really important factor here, for it is the number that's added to a variety of dice rolls in Baldur's Gate 3. If we look at strength, you can see that I have the minimum of 8 points set, which equates to a -1 modifier. If I keep this at 8 with the -1 modifier, all things that deal with the strength modifier in the game, which can be attack rolls, damage rolls, skill checks, and more, a -1 is going to be added to those rolls, which ultimately hurts my chances of success. However, in this case, I'm not going to be playing a character that uses strength too often. As we go up in increments of 2 with the ability scores, the modifier will go up by 1. So if we increase our strength to 9, the modifier is still at -1, but when we get to 10, the modifier changes to 0. If we go to 12, it goes to +1, 14 it goes to +2, and the max that you can manually make an ability score when not including racial bonuses is 15, which gives you the same modifier as 14 does. So for the most part, you're going to want to leave your ability scores on even numbers, so that extra point is not wasted. However, it is okay to leave some of them on odd numbers if you have a plan in the future for increasing those numbers to an even number, such as when you reach level 4 and get 2 more ability score points to invest. I hope it's not too confusing so far. Now let's get into each ability individually, and then we'll talk about assigning them to your specific character. The primary ability that you want to invest into is going to depend on what type of class you play, as well as what weapons you're going to go with. For example, if you want to play a fighter with a greatsword, you're going to want a good strength modifier. Or if you want to play a stealthy rogue with a hand crossbow, the dexterity modifier is going to be very important for you. Or as a wizard, you want a high intelligence modifier, for intelligence influences your wizard's spells. Let's break them down, starting with strength. As it says, strength influences your chance to land a hit, which is your attack roll, and it also influences your damage with strength-based weapons on your damage roll. Most melee weapons use strength, however some weapons do have the finesse property, which allows you to use strength or dexterity. If you're playing a great sword wielding fighter, your strength modifier will be added to your attack rolls and your damage rolls. Attack rolls, for those who are not familiar, determine if you hit or miss your strike, and your damage rolls determine the actual damage that you deal. All of this is done instantly behind the scenes when in combat, so focus on strength if you plan on dishing out most of your attacks with strength-based melee weapons. Otherwise, you will fail a lot. Another thing we have to keep in mind is that our ability modifiers will also influence skill checks in the game. So when you choose the skills that you want to be proficient in, you'll want to see what ability that particular skill is associated with, and choose the ones that your character is going to be at least decent with. The athletic skill is the skill that deals with strength, and it's a great skill choice for strength-based characters. The last thing we have to mention with strength is that it also affects the distance that you can jump and the weight that you can carry. Next up is dexterity, which influences your chance to land a hit and your damage with dexterity-based weapons. Attacks with ranged weapons use your dexterity modifier, as well as weapons with a finesse or thrown property, which you can use strength or dexterity for, such as rapiers, scimitars, short swords, and more. So for example, if you plan on playing a ranger with any type of bow, you want a good dexterity modifier. Dexterity also influences your chance of going first in combat with your initiative roll, and who doesn't enjoy getting the first turn, or at least being earlier in the order of turns. Also, if you're not going to be using heavy armor, dexterity will influence your armor class number, and the higher that your armor class number is, the harder it is for enemies to land their strikes on you. So dexterity can be important for many classes, even spellcasters which don't use dexterity for spellcasting. For example, my warlock right here is going to be using light armor, so therefore I want a decent dexterity modifier to help keep me alive. Skills that will benefit from dexterity include acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth. Up next is constitution, and like dexterity, it can be important for many classes regardless of what you're playing because it affects your HP. As the game says, constitution influences your max number of hit points, which is the amount of damage that you can take. Everyone will likely want a decent, if not great, constitution score, and those of you who like tanky characters, constitution is your friend. Each class has a class-specific base HP that you start off with, and your Constitution modifier will be added to that each level. Constitution can also play an important role with many spellcasters, for some spells require concentration, and in order to hold your concentration, you have to succeed on Constitution saving throws when an enemy is attempting to attack you, so a higher Constitution modifier increases your chances for being able to hold a spell up longer. Now onto the spellcaster's abilities, starting with intelligence. The only class in the game that uses intelligence as their spellcasting ability is the wizard. However, some subclasses that dip into the wizard's spell list will use intelligence as well, such as the arcane trickster rogue or an eldritch knight. So if you're playing one of these or playing a wizard, a higher intelligence modifier will increase your chances of landing your spells, and also increase the damage for some of those spells as well. Skills that fall under the intelligence ability include Arcana, History, Investigation, Nature, and Religion. There's many great skills in there, so depending on how you want your character to be in situations outside of combat, if you're not a wizard, you might actually still want to invest some into intelligence to go along with your skills. Now onto one of my favorites, the Wisdom ability. Druids, Rangers, and Clerics use Wisdom as their spellcasting ability. Obviously, Druids are not a choice right now in early access. A higher Wisdom modifier will increase your chances of your Wisdom-based spells hitting their target, and also increase the damage that many of them do as well. Skills associated with Wisdom include Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Perception, and Survival. Like the Intelligence ability, even if you're not one of the Wisdom spellcasters, if you want some of these skills, you might want to invest some points into Wisdom to increase your effectiveness with those skills. Having someone with a Perception skill proficiency and a decent Wisdom modifier is a good choice for every party. And the last ability in the game is Charisma. Many classes use Charisma for spellcasting, but only one in early access does, which is the Warlock. Bards, Paladins, and Sorcerers will be the other classes. Like we said with the other abilities, Charisma-based spells will benefit from a higher Charisma modifier, increasing your chances to hit and damage for some spells as well. Skills that deal with Charisma are Deception, Intimidation, Performance, and Persuasion. If you want someone who is good at dialogue or a character that is the face of your party, Charisma is the ability. Now that we have an understanding as to what each ability is, let's talk about actually assigning them to your character. First, note that there is a use recommended option, which is going to give you a good general idea for what you might want to do if you're playing your specific class in the traditional way. Nothing wrong with using this preset, it ensures that you don't ruin your character, but by now most of you should have a decent understanding and be able to distribute points on your own. On the top, you can see that it says 0 out of 27 points. That's because I'm on the use recommended settings right now. So if we take all of our points and drop them to the minimum, we can then distribute the points where we want. 8 is the minimum ability score, which is a -1 modifier, but you'll notice that some of my abilities are higher than 8. The reason for this is that your racial choice gives you a boost to certain abilities. As a drow, I get a +2 to dexterity and a +1 to charisma, so you can see that those points have been automatically added into my base scores. So now we have to use the point buy system, and I'll have this handy chart pop up while we're talking about it. In character creation, the max that you can make an ability score is 15. You can go higher if your racial bonus boosts it. And giving yourself a 15 in an ability is going to cost you 9 points from your 27. If you leave a score at the minimum of 8, it costs 0 points from the 27. Playing as a warlock with my spellcasting ability being charisma, I want to focus on this ability first. I'm going to max it out, costing me 9 points from the 27. Since I'm playing as a drow, I also get the +1 to charisma, so when I max it out, it goes to 16 instead of 15, giving me the modifier of +3. As a warlock, strength will likely be my dump stat, so I'm going to leave it at 8 with a -1 modifier. I don't plan on doing much involving strength with this character, I'll leave that for another party member. The next two important ability scores for the warlock, for most, will be Constitution and Dexterity. Constitution to boost my HP and help with spells that require concentration, and Dexterity to boost my armor class number, making it harder for enemies to hit me. So let's boost both of these abilities to 14 with a +2 modifier for the time being, and see how many points we have left. So we now have 7 points left to spend, and I'm starting to think more about role-playing aspects for my character and the skills that I chose. Many of the skills that I chose deal with the intelligence ability, so I'm going to up my intelligence to 10, getting rid of that negative modifier that I had when it was at 8. Now I could up my wisdom to 10 as well to help with wisdom saving throws in the game, but I'm going to leave it at 8 and instead boost my other more important abilities up even more. I can get my dexterity to 16 with the drow racial boost, upping that modifier to +3, but unfortunately I can't get my constitution higher than 15, which is the same modifier as 14, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 14. I see now that I have 2 remaining points, so I'm going to boost my intelligence up even more to help with those skills of mine and make it a 12 with a +1 modifier. Skills are a lot of fun and very useful in the game, so don't take them lightly. Overall, there's many different ways that you can handle this. Just remember to show some love to the 2 or 3 primary abilities that are essential for the type of character that you are playing. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. It's a huge help to my videos. I do all sorts of content on this channel, ranging from live streams to class guides to lore videos to comedy videos and much more. I'd love to see some of you guys on a future video. Until next time.